Hello guys. Welcome back to another amazing fanfic story. First of all, a huge thank you for all the love and support on part 3. So many of you were asking for the next part in the comments, and because of your requests, I'm finally back with part 4. Sasuke was wondering for the 10th time today why he was holding this meeting, all this effort for the Dobi, to actually bother with an action that wouldn't bring him closer to his goals of killing him and restoring his clan. As much as it irked him that the Dobi had gotten stronger, Naruto had proven something to Sasuke. To go beyond his limits, Sasuke needed to have people precious to him to make putting his life on the line worthwhile. He and Naruto were both sorely missing people important to them. Their shared loneliness as orphans made their friendship that much more important. Putting aside his real reason for his current set of actions, Sasuke considered his other reason. As the Uchiha, Sasuke had his family's dignity to maintain, and its status as one of the important clans of Konoha. Once he killed that man, Sasuke knew he would devote himself with equal intensity to rebuilding his clan. As the clan head, it was required he undertake social duties. So hosting a reception for his teammate was expected of him, and Uchiha could do no less. Even if it was for the Dobi getting engaged in a treaty marriage. No, even if it had been Kakashi, Sasuke would have undertaken this action purely out of social duty. Too bad it couldn't be Sakura, though, as Sasuke would have been mentally leaping with glee as she would never be able to hang on him in false romantic hope. Damn it, he was going to need a woman in a few years, not a teenager, to rebuild his clan. So when Sasuke entered Team 8's favored tea house, he could only grunt at Ino's squeal of, "Sasuke-kun." Shikamaru only raised an eyebrow in acknowledgement of how troublesome Ino was. Pulling up a seat, Sasuke only gave his trademark HN to Ino's flow of questions as he waited for everyone else to arrive. Sakura showed up with Kiba just before the meeting's start time as the last ones to arrive. Taking a sip of his tea, Sasuke got straight to the point. "Naruto. I'm hosting a reception for him after the public ceremony in 6 days. I am not domestic, nor do I have the time to do everything required." Sasuke was damned if he was going to actually ask for help. As a clan, only the Hyugas were on the same level as the Uchiha. Besides, Sasuke was sure Hinata would volunteer without being asked. She was the domestic type. In fact, now that Sasuke thought about it, she was more mature physically than the other girls his age and the only one who wasn't annoying. In a few years she might be worth looking into. But first, Sasuke had other priorities. "Cha, Team 8 will help out Sasuke-kun," Ino brashly declared as she shot Shikamaru and Tenten glares. "Most important is the question of what food to serve. It will say much about the message you intend to give." Choiji added on seriously. A strained-looking Hinata added, "Anyo. We will also help." Neji, after Hinata finished, motioned off Sakura from speaking as he cut in. The question to be answered is if this is to be an open or closed event purely for those associated with or friends with Naruto. Glancing at Neji, Sasuke found his desire to fight the Hyuga genius doubled. He was smart, and a brilliant fighter. A fight between the Sharingan against the Byakugan might well help Sasuke master his bloodline limit. Without altering his features, Sasuke answered, "Open. I wish to host this function as head of my clan." Pausing a moment, Neji fired back, "When you send out word, be sure to stress that it is to congratulate Naruto on his engagement. Guards will also be required. Naruto has a number of adults who view him in a negative manner. Not to mention all those upset with the Sand Forces." Sasuke grunted and HN as he noticed Hinata, Shikamaru and Sakura catch the nuances of what Neji had said. The Dobi had managed to royally annoy the older generation over the years with his pranks. Anyo. Foe or clan functions like this, a variety of jobs are required to be done. I will write up the tasks and then we can split the work up," Hinata said quietly. "Good thinking, Hinata," Sakura said cheerfully as she envisioned herself helping to Sasuke host the party. "HN. Sasuke replied as he gave Hinata a nod. Good, he didn't have to ask for help. The others were leaping to help. Not to mention he could put most of the work on Hinata's shoulders. Yeah, she was definitely going to be on his list when that man was dead. An alliance with the Hyuga could prove useful in the long run. I'll give you a rough budget as well. As he prepared to leave, Sasuke was stopped for a moment by the appearance of the four Junin senseis. At Kakashi's questioning look, Sasuke shrugged and said casually, "The Uchiha will be hosting a reception after the engagement." Asuma frowned for a moment as he considered Sasuke's statement. This was strange given the effects of the curse seal he had learnt of from both his father and Anko. Perhaps Kakashi's seal really was working. The whole wedding business with Naruto was troubling as well. His aunt had pressed hard to assign Naruto after Sand revealed their choice. Either they were playing a deep game or Sand's counsel was acting petty. Probably both, given his own experiences with Konoha's counsel. As much as he disliked the plotters, at least Asuma knew they took actions based on a plan and not from petty motivations. Kakashi, however, nodded in approval at Sasuke. The two were becoming friends, even if Sasuke had chosen to cloak his actions as a clan duty. Looking forward to it. Unfortunately, before Kakashi could move away, Guy leapt into action. "Yash! Your student burns with the fire of youth, Kakashi," Guy proclaimed, striking a pose. "However, when the first of my students gets engaged, I know they will host an even better reception, burning with the fires of youth." Guy sensei. Turning around, Guy let loose tears of joy as Lee heaved himself away from a game board. Springing over to his student, the banner of springtime appeared as the sun set on an island with the sound of waves in the distance. A light breeze actually started blowing, moving the beast's hair. "Lee. Guy sensei. Lee. Guy sensei, let our fire of youth burn for Naruto-kun's reception." "Yes, Lee, we will make it a reception overflowing with the fire of youth. If not, I will climb the Hokage monument only using one leg 100 times." "Guy sensei. Lee." Tenten smiled as she viewed the two beasts' bond. "I'd give that one a 7. What do you think, Neji?" 6.5. Not enough. Wind and the sparkling teeth were unsynchronized. Neji replied sagely. Shuddering, Ino asked the question all the genin were afraid to ask: "Are they always like that?" Tenten replied in a happy tone, "Sure. Guy may have trained us 12 hours a day, but those two spent at least 2 hours enjoying the fires of youth. We just used the episodes as breaks. Judging them on a 10-point scale was our one source of entertainment." Nodding, Neji added, "Besides, it keeps Guy sensei from trying to make us wear the outfit." As Kakashi turned his attention back to Guy, he sighed in relief as the two had stopped. Guy had become really annoying without anyone to share his fire of youth rituals with. "Lee-kun, why are you here?" Guy asked as he struck his concerned teacher pose number 5. "Guy sensei, I am attempting to seek heaven as the Chunin motto requires. I must continually grow my skills as a ninja. I will master strategy and tactics through hard work." Lee proclaimed proudly. "I will not waste my time while I heal. Lee-kun, you are truly a genius of hard work." Guy sensei. Lee. Naruto bounced up and down on his seat as he watched Temari from across the table. Iruka was cooking dinner for the three of them, having spent the day running errands and helping unpack. The scent of frying meat and onions was wafting through the kitchen, set his stomach rumbling. Temari, while still pretty pale, looked over in mild bemusement at Naruto. Her thoughts were swirling through her head about the kiss from this morning. Why had she given Naruto that second kiss? The quick peck on the cheek as a thank you had been good enough. This was going to take some serious thinking on her part. Damn it, Temari had been raised since she was 4 to be a warrior, a weapon on the battlefield to lay waste without mercy or concern. She certainly hadn't been trained in the manner of normal kunoichi. Temari let her thoughts race as she considered whom she had been and now was going to start becoming. She certainly hadn't been trained in the feminine arts, a fact her few girlfriends sometimes lamented whenever she exclaimed her lack of interest in the latest fashions. Utility had always been her primary concern in choosing outfits. That weapons girl Tenten certainly came from the same school of thought, unlike Sakura or that other blonde. Over the years, Temari had concentrated on being a deadly shinobi and hurting Gaara, not on boys or on how she looked. Ironically enough, Temari considered her future of not concentrating on boys or fashion and hurting Naruto. She could only hope the children weren't as hyper as Naruto, as that would be pure hell. Wait, children. Temari paused to consider that latest thought. Children the two would be under pressure to produce as soon as they married. In a few short years Temari was going to be forced to cut short her life as a shinobi to become a mother. As that thought rolled around in her stomach leaving acid in its wake, Temari frowned at this. This was the real cut to her heart. She had been ordered to put aside her growth to save Suna, the sacrifice of one for the many. So why kiss Naruto? Temari thought as various images flashed through her head. He was powerful, confident, charismatic, and not mention an ambitious genin. Few had the willpower to become a Kage and the strength to back it up. It was only in maturity and skill that Naruto was lacking, things brought by time and experience. None of that mattered, however. Temari had owed him a kiss for changing Gaara into a human again. Yet again that didn't count. No, she had kissed Naruto because he was sweet, devoted, concerned, and more importantly hers. Hers. Naruto hers. Temari sat confused as she considered the importance of this. Ever since the Suna Council had informed her she was being married off as part of the treaty, Temari had been mulling over her future. Would she be respected by whomever she married, or would they hate, fear her for what Gaara was? Whoever her husband was, could she be happy? The revelation that it was to be Naruto had sent Temari reviewing her encounters with the blonde. Sure, she had underestimated him in favor of Sasuke at the start when Kankuro ran into the brats. The first exam had piqued her interest. He had the guts to shout down a whole room of hostile genin, and then break a tense mood with an intense proclamation. The prelims had continued to stir her interest. Whatever Naruto was, he was stubborn, inventive, and willing to sow chaos on the battlefield. In the end, however, it was his willingness to continue to fight Gaara to the bitter end to protect those precious to him that had sealed it. That much willpower was impressive, and well, what kunoichi could resist the appeal of a man willing to destroy those who threatened his important people? Politics may have brought them together, but it was Naruto's heart that had captured her. Temari was starting to fall in love with Naruto, and she wasn't planning on losing him to anyone. She had been a Kage's daughter, and if she had anything to do with it, a Kage's wife in the future. However, in the next few years Temari was going to have trained intensely. Even if she had run herself into the ground, she was going to achieve the rank of Junin. That was for later, however, as Temari was considering when Naruto was going to earn another kiss. That taste of ramen, blood and mint on his lips was an intriguing one. Dinner's ready, Iruka announced as he carefully placed the food on the table. A bowl of rice and vegetables steamed nicely away, and the platter of beef and onions smelled tasty. Picking away at her plate, Temari slowly worked her way through the meal. It was definitely good, and Temari smiled and said, "So, it's good, thank you for cooking and helping out today." Scratching his head, Iruka ducked his head and replied in an abashed tone, "Thanks. My mission got scrubbed, so I was free today." Looking up from his scrapped clean plate, Naruto declared, "That was great, Iruka-sensei. Not as good as ramen, but still good." Shifting to Temari, Naruto said happily, "I found out my primary element today. I'm a wind element just like you." Taking a moment to process Naruto's remark, Temari's face brightened in interest. This was news. Wind elementals were rare even in Suna, which had the greatest concentration in the world. Of course, it didn't help that those who were primary wind elements got trained as frontline fighters. Causalities kept their numbers down. It boded well for their children. Really? Well, we have more in common than just our blonde hair, huh? I have some scrolls with basic wind jutsus for you to train in. I'll get for you later tonight. Naruto's jaw just dropped. Not only did he and Temari share the same element, she was going to share some jutsus with him. Launching himself around the table, tears of happiness in his eyes, Naruto cried out as he hugged her fiercely, "Thank you, Temari-chan. Thank you." Being tightly hugged by Naruto for offering him genin-level jutsus, Temari was slightly shocked. Still tired out, she returned the hug for a minute before breaking the hug gently. Naruto was just too adorable to get this excited over something so simple. However, she wanted a date before giving him another kiss. No matter how cute he was looking right now. Clearing her throat, Temari said softly, "You're welcome, Naruto-kun. However, if you want another kiss, you'll have to take me out on a date." Naruto was stunned. Not only was Temari going to share a few jutsus with him, she wanted to go on a date. Maybe this whole engagement business wasn't such a bad deal after all. A very pretty kunoichi wanted to go on a date with him. Suddenly one of Naruto's true grins blazed across his face. Tomorrow night then, unless we're away on a mission. Tomorrow. Temari agreed easily. Now help me upstairs, I'm still pretty drained. Iruka could only shake his head in disbelief. Naruto was well on his way to actually courting Temari. His research and gentle questioning of the other couples married by treaty had shown that most reached a form of peace, but very few turned into love matches. This had the potential to turn into the latter. Watching the two head upstairs, Iruka grinned. Hopefully things would turn out all right for Naruto. Iruka frowned at four Junin gathered at the table around him, not even bothering to glance at a certain snake-wielding special Junin who had grabbed him off the street and into this bar. All the said Junin were well into several bottles of sake, exchanging stories about the recent Chunin exam and of course their students. If he didn't know better, he would swear that he was deliberately being set up for a prank. Anko, however, wasn't setting him up for a prank. No, she was just setting him up or trying to by playing the classic get Iruka drunk and send him home with an equally sloshed Kurenai. It didn't matter to Anko that Asuma was tentatively hemming and hawing his way into finally asking Kurenai out. Quick, direct, forceful action was required in the battlefields of love and war, and sake was extremely helpful expediting action. Either way things worked out, Kurenai was likely to be hooked up, by either getting Asuma off his ass or snuggled in with her brother Iruka. Kakashi, of course, was just playing along, having spotted Anko's game and decided to have a little fun himself. In an inquiring tone he asked, "So how's the young couple faring, Iruka?" Kakashi, if he was ever to truly reveal his hobbies, one would be that he liked creating soap operas among his company workers. After all, it was almost as good as a new Ika Ika, though he didn't get to see the really interesting parts, well, not without peeking. Kurenai, of course, was just as interested after all, as Hinata had come to her several times with tears in her eyes as she had her heart destroyed because of this engagement. Well, that and it was good gossip after all. Giving Iruka a long look with her eyes hooded by her lashes, Kurenai asked, using her well-developed feminine wiles in a low, mysterious voice, "Oh yes, do tell all, Iruka-kun." Asuma merely took a drag on his cigarette and clenched his cup of sake tightly, thought to himself, damn it. After all, he was a Junin of Konoha, had lead the 12 guardians, and was the son of the Sandame. Why was it so difficult to ask Kurenai out? A simple, "Would you like to go out for dinner?" Perhaps, sir. Kurenai, would you like to go out? Romance was tough, even for shinobi. Taking a long drag, Asuma glanced at Guy. Even with the outfit and the haircut, he had no trouble getting dates. Third dates, sure. But then again, Guy was confidence and persistence itself. Not to mention when he took off his shirt, he was absolutely ripped with muscle. Guy himself was mildly interested in hearing how his rival Kakashi's student was doing in the field of romance. After all, Naruto was the hard-working genius on that team, who had almost as much fire of youth as Lee. Perhaps a bit too much levity of youth, but Guy wasn't going to begrudge Naruto that. After all, Naruto had too much of the sour loneliness of youth. In fact, Guy was tempted to give the poor boy his own personal grooming kit. One didn't get sparkling white teeth without a little extra help, and the shiny hair of youth would look just as good blonde as his own black hair. Taking the shot of sake, Iruka realized that he wasn't getting of this, not with Kurenai squeezing in tight against him on one side of the booth and Kakashi on the other. Mentally raising a white flag at his defeat, Iruka couldn't help but grin a little and said, "Pretty well actually. He's gotten at least one kiss, not to mention the heavy sighs and long looks they're exchanging. As well, they're going on a date tomorrow night. Provided, of course, their mission doesn't interfere. It won't. With the betrothal this close, it's going to be an in-village mission." Kakashi said simply, then gestured to Iruka to continue on. Shrugging his shoulders, Iruka blushed lightly for a moment and said, "Actually, I don't have much more than that. Kurenai, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind taking Temari aside and briefing her on the standard kunoichi protocols. I'm not quite sure how they do things in Suna." Pouting a little, Kurenai said in a slightly drunken tone, "For you, Iruka-kun, sure, but who wants to talk about work when we're trying to relax?" Asuma took a shot of sake and long pull on his cigarette. Iruka was practically throwing himself at Kurenai. Maybe it was time to get off his ass and take action. But Naruto-kun and Temari's betrothal is the biggest news in town right now. Guy said seriously before turning and motioning to a waitress who blushed suddenly at his glinting teeth. Actually Kurenai, what's Kiba's reaction to all this? I mean 2 out of 3 of your genin have crushes on the young couple. Kakashi said with a slight twinkle in his eye. Kiba. Why? Oh so Shino. Kurenai muttered as her slightly drunken state caused her to verbalize her thoughts partially. So the silent enigma on her team was human enough to crush on Temari, huh? Answering Kakashi's question, she said simply, laughing his ass off. I was a touch concerned when his mother suggested I keep a bucket of cold water on me to cool him down, but I figured out that Kiba prefers civilian girls. Says that way he doesn't have wonder if they have 10 different ways of killing him for saying something stupid. Asuma, desperate to drag this conversation away from relationships, and to keep Iruka from talking with Kurenai, butted in and asked, I'm just wondering if we'll end up with any chunin from the exam other than Temari in a year and a bit. What do you think, Anko? The snake Junin merely shrugged her shoulders. Depends on the new Hokage. They after all could simply decide we're hard up for chunin and call all 5 of the candidates battle tested. After all, they all displayed at least chunin level skills throughout the whole exam. Shikamaru had fun with his chess match with Temari, but Shino knew how to plan ahead and probe the enemy's weaknesses in the prelim. As for Neji, Naruto and Sasuke, all 3 of them are powerhouses with unique advantages. That Naruto kid has balls of steel though. Not many people would leap into a battle to save their squad against the Snake Sannin, or hell even Shukaku going on a rampage. Iruka shuddered at the mention of Shukaku as the debriefing for the Chunin and Junin after the battle had included that particular fight. Demon vessels had clashed and it was Konoha's that had come out on top. Commenting carefully, Iruka said, I wouldn't doubt his skills in straightforward combat or even infiltration and destruction missions, but Naruto needs a bit more seasoning. Nodding at this, Guy added, true, and his only match was against Neji. For both of them it was a poor draw to demonstrate the other qualities of a chunin besides power and skill. Blinking, Guy suddenly flashed his smile and added, but definitely a match well worth it in terms of their fire of youth. Such passion. Neji has gained a new level of respect for Naruto through his passion alone and his will in keeping his prisoner in check. Kakashi, hardly having had anything to drink to begin with, focused suddenly and asked seriously, how did Neji figure it out? Shrugging his shoulders, Guy replied, Neji is not called a genius for nothing. He knew something was up after Naruto was able to blow open his closed-off tenketsu with the Kyuubi's chakra that was under his control. After a bit of research he stated clearly to me that Naruto was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi. I then told him of the Third's Law and its consequences. Relief flooded over Kakashi and he asked in an interested tone, so what was his reaction? Laughing, Guy said after flashing his pearly whites, he admitted that Naruto was burning with the fires of youth. After all, Neji stated he would have been tempted to use said power to wreak great havoc himself. Enough about work, Enko declared loudly as she poured another round of drinks for everybody. Drink up, and let's get talking about more important things like the next Koyuki movie. I hear it's got some great fighting scenes. After determining that Kakashi was consistently late, Temari set the 3 Ganon to sparring lightly. This had meant hauling both Sasuke and Naruto off each other after a few minutes of growling at the other and telling them off for using jutsus. Temari had meant every word she had said to Naruto, that when she was on duty, she put personal business aside. Leaving her fan to one side, Temari motioned for Sakura to attack. As Sakura moved into attack, Temari realized her recollections from the prelims were accurate. Sakura had nothing beyond Academy Taijutsu. Admittedly, without fans her taijutsu wasn't the greatest, but it still wasn't that bad. Settling into a rhythm of strikes and counters, Temari felt herself loosen up in the morning sun. Switching around partners, Temari quickly realized the speed and skill Sasuke possessed. He was good, there was no denying it. The few blows she got in, however, Temari was sure he felt. Using a battle fan meant you build up strength quickly throughout one's body. Her brief tussle with him during the invasion had been enlightening. The two were closely matched, however, with terrain providing one or the other with the advantage. He, however, did have greater stamina. Naruto, however, was pure fun to fight, as he laughed, bounded, and launched himself into the fight. His unorthodox fighting style, in fact it seemed to be lacking any polish at all, was pure chaos, which made it difficult to predict his next move. His face smiling a foxy grin, Naruto managed to match Temari in terms of falls and blows. The hour of sparring over, Temari decided to talk with Naruto's teammates. As much as she didn't want to bring up the recent war, she figured it was best to clear the air right away. The Chunin exams. Do any of you have questions or things that need to be dealt with? Sasuke frowned as he reviewed the Chunin exam and battle that followed. As much as he wanted to ask about Gaara's power, Sasuke figured it was a curse seal of some sort. That sense of evil chakra was alike to what he had felt with the curse seal on his neck. That he most definitely wasn't going to talk about. You need to increase your stamina, as the fight with Shikamaru shouldn't have tired you out that much. Acknowledging the point, Temari looked over to Sakura. She figured the girl would want to ask something. The young Kunoichi, however, merely shook her head. Kakashi-sensei had talked to both of them after the announcement of the treaty marriage. You had orders. Though why didn't you realize a switch had taken place? He was your father after all. Pausing at this, Temari reviewed the situation in her own mind, carefully choosing her words. The past several years, I saw my father maybe 3 times a year. We weren't on the best terms, and for the past year most of our time was spent on missions. He never was the best father even when I was young, just too focused on his duties as the cage. That pretty much finished off the conversation for the next while until Kakashi showed up. Said Joa Nin arrived several minutes later with a, "Yo. You're late." Naruto and Sakura called out in their traditional greeting. "Sorry I'm late, an attack of paperwork had to be beaten back." Kakashi smiled as he gave, for what was almost the first time ever, his real reason for being late. "I'll give you the quick briefing on the team's assigned mission for right now. The Hot Springs has received complaints about somebody peeking lately, and so you are now ordered to find, identify and capture said individual and return him to the Hokage's tower." Both Temari and Sakura exchanged glances. Both Kunoichi had strong opinions about perverts, and Sakura voiced their shared thought. Does the pervert have to be conscious when we drag him to the tower? No. Kakashi said after a moment's thought. Sasuke muttered as he glared at Kakashi. It was a lame mission. Naruto, however, had sunk into the ground holding his head in his hands. This had the earmarks of a certain Sanin all over it. Grumbling, Naruto asked Kakashi, "It's Ero Sennin obviously, that's how I met him in the first place." He was peeking then as well. Kakashi's eye crinkled up in amusement. Only Naruto could call Jiraiya that and get away with it. Actually, Naruto, it's not Jiraiya-sama this time around, he's been kept busy. Busy trying to comfort widows and pick up nurses, not to mention pumping money into Konoha's entertainment district. Rolling his eyes, Naruto said in a disbelieving tone, "Right, so Ero Sennin was peeking at other places then. Oh well, yet another pervert to find and deal with. We'll scout out the hot springs first thing. Determine the best observation points, trap them and keep a watch up for the pervert." Temari said after a few moments' thought in a firm tone. Motioning her team forward, Temari had Naruto lead them through Konoha to the hot springs as she occasionally called out formation shifts. Kakashi nodded in appreciation at Temari's use of a rather low-key mission to work herself into the squad and have them practice squad formations. He had his own mission to deal with, a B rank he was taking solo. Naruto sighed in frustration. They had quickly set up traps in likely spots a pervert would peek from and were now patrolling the outside until the pervert showed up. Temari had them continually switching partners and routes as they waited for the pervert to show up. Not that they expected him to show, it was likely a shinobi considering the pervert had managed to get away from enraged Kunoichi. With the 4 of them patrolling, the pervert had likely spotted the increased security and snuck off to another hot springs to go peek. So needing advice, and to kill boredom, Naruto decided to talk with Sakura. In an uncertain tone, Naruto asked, Hey, Sakura-chan, I need to ask you something. Sakura, after a moment's thought, considered relieving her boredom against the chance of Naruto asking something mind-destroying. The boredom was doing that anyway, so Sakura said in a bored tone, Sure, why not? What would be a good first date? Naruto asked in a slightly desperate tone. Naruto, you're getting engaged to Temari, so no, I won't go out with you. Sakura said automatically after hearing the word date. No. I asked Temari-chan out, but other than going for ramen, I don't have any ideas of what to do. Blinking in disbelief, Sakura actually thought hard, considering what Naruto had just said. Naruto obviously had decided that he was going through with the marriage. Being Naruto, it wasn't a shock that he actually wanted to do the normal things with Temari, i.e. date. So it was not a surprise Naruto had no idea of how to date, or what to do beyond going for ramen. Sakura, who after months of working with Naruto now thought of him rather like a little brother, a loud annoying one to be sure, was going to help him out. Or as inner Sakura visualized it as she put on a lab coat, unfurled a banner that read, Date Doctor, and started rubbing her hands in anticipation. Naruto didn't know what was going to hit him. Pulling Naruto aside, Sakura quickly started laying out ideas and ground rules for dating. Naruto nodded desperately as he took in several ground rules and basics, gleaned although Sakura wouldn't admit it from magazines and not from experience. Given their mission, Sakura suggested taking Temari to go out for ice cream and a walk through one of the prettier parks. Sasuke frowned as he carried the takeout back to the others. The mission was a complete waste of time. Catching a pervert, Fahi would have been better off training. Although Temari had demonstrated how a squad should be commanded, she might be weaker in terms of raw power. She did at least know how to plan, prepare and deploy a squad. Out of all the younger kunoichi, he knew Temari at least knew how to act like a professional. When a shinobi was on the clock, one should act like it. He could only hope Sakura would pick up that professional attitude. Sasuke, however, caught a slight movement in the corner of his eye, and with a surge of chakra activated his Sharingan. Dropping the bag of takeout, Sasuke launched a shuriken designed to let the person know he had been found out. Blowing his whistle, a useful item Temari had suggested he take out from his clan supplies, Sasuke then sneered and said, You're caught. Might as well give yourself up. The pervert, obviously realizing he had been found out, immediately took off trying to outrun him. Sasuke of course leapt right after him, hoping the chase and fight would at least be interesting. Frowning, Sasuke slowly took in the features of the person he was chasing. From the rear, it was either a very feminine man or a woman he was chasing. The black tight one-piece outfit and short brown jacket were lacking any identifying features. Long brown hair was flowing behind her as she leapt through the trees. Temari, who had heard the sharp whistle, had started moving towards Sasuke when she spotted figures moving through the trees. Altering course, Temari caught up with Sasuke and was leaping beside him through the treetops. So are perverts a woman, Temari asked quietly as she eyed the fleeing figure. Annoying, but then they can't all be men. Sasuke said in a somewhat ironic tone. Let's end this quick. Nodding, Temari quickly put on a burst of speed and ran through a series of hand seals Sasuke couldn't quite see. The results were obvious, however, as 3 wind bullets streaked forward. Sasuke frowned as they missed, but he then grinned as they exploded with a burst of air in front, slamming backwards into their target, effectively halting her. Skidding to a halt, Sasuke eyed the trim woman who was wearing her forehead protector as a belt. Consider yourself caught, pervert, Sasuke said with a sneer as he eyed the kunoichi. Temari landed on another tree then with Sasuke, covering off another potential escape route. Keeping her fan ready, Temari suddenly snapped her fan as the pervert suddenly dropped a smoke bomb. The smoke was quickly dispersed, but all the two heard was a mocking laugh as the pervert called out, Better luck tomorrow. Better yet, have the bishi cutie soak in baths. Cursing under her breath, Temari added, That explains why the kunoichi bathing couldn't find her. They were looking for a man, not a woman. HN. Sasuke replied as he was seriously annoyed by the woman's remarks. We'll refocus the traps to the men's side. I'm marrying into a village of perverts. Kakashi reading those damn books then that woman. Temari snapped as she headed back to the hot springs. Sasuke muttered in a tone of agreement, wasting time better spent training. Naruto fidgeted slightly as he waited for Temari to join him downstairs. She was taking a while to clean up after they had ended the mission for the night. Naruto, on the other hand, after a quick sniff at his clothing, had decided to throw on a clean jumpsuit and scrub his face thoroughly. To finish his preparations, Naruto brushed his teeth thoroughly and gargled with mouthwash. He had picked up the bottle on the advice of Iruka and Kakashi. Having accomplished all that in 10 minutes, Naruto was left kicking his heels for another 20 as he grew progressively more and more wound up with nervous energy. Naruto, with an extra hard leap off the couch, causing it rock back against the wall, greeted Temari as she came down the stairs. "Wow," Naruto said with his mouth open and in a stunned tone, "you look amazing, Temari-chan." Temari felt very pleased at Naruto's comment. She had rarely ever gone on dates before, and most of those had been with shinobi out to boost their career by trying to get to her father through her. For the past year she had ignored all the other date offers, burnt by that reality. Naruto didn't care about politicking to pursue his career, and her father was irrelevant here in Konoha, not to mention he was dead and buried. "Thanks, Naruto. That's sweet of you." Temari replied in a happy tone. "My friend Mir helped me find this outfit, one of the few civilian ones I own." Rather modest, Temari felt comfortable in the combo of a knee-length black skirt and a light red blouse, which was cut so her neck and most of her shoulders were exposed. Around her waist a wide white sash was tied and fell to her right side. Finishing it off, Temari had let her hair fall down to her shoulders, and prevented it from falling into her face by pulling back the top layer into a hair clip. Made from sandalwood and burnished to a deep brown, it was decorated with gold inlaid in an abstract pattern and was one of the few pieces of jewelry she had from her mother. Blushing at this, Naruto ducked his head for a moment and came up with a light frown and said, concerned, "Do you have any weapons on you?" Nodding in approval at Naruto's instinctive reaction, Temari whipped out a normal Tessin fan from behind her back. A Tessin, not to mention a few hidden kunai. "You, Naruto-kun." Naruto merely tapped his kunai pouch and whirled so Temari could see his equipment pouch. "I'm prepared. Iruka let me know what the standard protocols are for treaty marriages. I have to make contact with any troublemakers first. Besides, Sound or another village may target either of us purely for politics." Naruto pouted at this last comment. Laughing a little, Naruto thought Temari's laugh sounded like bells ringing. Temari asked in an amused tone, "So why would you want to be targeted by assassins anyway, Naruto-kun?" Lighting up with a wide grin, Naruto replied happily, "Simple, because they respect my abilities too much to take me on in a straight-up fight. Only someone equal to Kage can take one on in a fight. Got to send assassins instead." Securing her heels, they were only a few centimeters. Temari smiled indulgently at Naruto and replied, "No, because they're too afraid to take either of us on in battle. Until we reach that point, any assassins they send now we can practice on." If anything, Naruto's grin got even wider at this. "Yosh, you're right, Temari-chan. I almost feel sorry for them. Almost." Taking Temari's hand, Naruto started moving at a good pace in the dusk air. Taking small precise licks of her vanilla cone, Temari revealed in the treat. Ice cream was made only in rarest of occasions in Suna. Cow's cream was expensive and difficult to keep, and goat's milk, the common milk in Suna, made awful ice cream, so Temari was savoring every bit. Taking a glance at Naruto, who was eating his chocolate cone rather messily, Temari couldn't help but grin. Naruto was just so enthusiastic about everything he did, throwing himself into it wholeheartedly. Sure, he might be a little crude in his manners, to be expected when Naruto was an orphan, but Gaara had been much worse. That brought Temari to a halt as a wave of homesickness surged through her. She missed teasing Kankuro about his latest face paint design, the new Gaara's tentative smiles, and even the old Gaara's rough insistence that she cook spiced pancakes after a mission. Even though street vendors sold them, Gaara only eat hers. It had been one of the few traditions that made them a family and a team. After a successful mission, they and Baki would have spiced pancakes together. Naruto, noticing Temari's change in mood, carefully swallowed his ice cream and asked, Temari-chan, what's wrong? Sighing a little, Temari replied honestly, I'm missing my brothers, and the little rituals we had. Whenever we had a successful mission, I'd make spiced pancakes, and all of us would eat them together, including our Joa, Nin-sensei. Thinking for a few moments, Naruto said quietly, we could do that. Make pancakes together after we catch the pervert. Also, you could write your brothers and send them a picture. As a few tears built up in her eyes, Temari managed to choke out past her tightening throat, I'd like that, Naruto-kun. Temari remained quiet after that as she wrapped her hand in Naruto's. The two of them remained sitting on the park bench in silence long after they finished their cone. Gaara frowned as they neared Suna's gate in the early twilight, the first of the evening's stars twinkling above him. As they slipped through Suna's gates, Gaara eyed Kankuro, Baki and their new teammate Aim, a new Ganon who focused on genjutsus. Oddly enough, she ignored the bloody mess his jutsus caused, though her father's slaughterhouse probably got her used to the sight of blood. Pancakes. Gaara said simply. Baki and Kankuro eyed each other momentarily, as Temari refused to cook on missions and neither of them could cook, so they mostly ate rations. Pancakes were beyond both of their skills, so it was with a hopeful look they turned to Aim with a hopeful look. Shaking her head, Aim said, I know a good street vendor. No. Gaara replied in a stern tone before adding in a much calmer tone, I will try making them. Pausing for several moments, Gaara decided to add, keep the vendor in mind. So it was with rather severe case of nervousness the three waited for Gaara to emerge from the kitchen, where many strange noises and sounds could be heard. When Gaara emerged with a platter filled with pancakes and slathered with cinnamon and butter, not to mention that he was dusted all over with flour, only Aim smiled slightly. Kankuro speared one pancake and cut into it nervously. After swallowing it, Kankuro looked and smiled as he started grabbing more pancakes. A good Gaara. With that, Gaara smiled slightly and said in a somewhat startled tone, thank you. Baki. Moments later, as he tried to pull a large number of the cakes onto his plate, was stopped by a grip of sand. Turning to Gaara, Baki didn't let his fear show, as he waited for Gaara to make a move. Temari would want us to mind our manners. Gaara said slowly, as he let Baki's arm go. Passing the platter to Aim, Gaara waited until she had served herself before taking his own share of pancakes. Throwing a mild glower at Kankuro, who was busy shoveling pancakes into his mouth, Gaara decided to simply eat his own neatly. As they reached the front step, Temari felt her heart beat rapidly as she considered the kiss that Naruto had earned. The low hum of the porch light cast a soft glow, warmly embracing the two of them, turning both blonde's somewhat pale faces golden. With a quick glance down into Naruto's dancing blue eyes, Temari sighed and softly said, I had a good time tonight, Naruto. Naruto in turn blushed and said, me too. Racing through Naruto's mind was a rather one-track refrain. Will she kiss me? She kiss me, kiss me, kiss, 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 K. So when Temari lowered her head and lightly placed her lips against his, Naruto's mind exploded in a wave of light. Focusing only on the kiss, Naruto began kissing back, letting his lips communicate the desires and joys of his heart. Reaching out with his hands, Naruto snaked one arm around Temari's waist and the other under her shoulder to bring her closer. Temari in turn leaned deeper into Naruto's embrace and brought her hands to his face, cupping his cheeks. All of Temari's doubts, loneliness, homesickness, and fears for the future seemed pointless in light of the kiss. At a later date, Temari would have described it as a moment her soul roared with love. In the heat of the moment, however, Temari felt as if a rainbow was exploding in her brain. Time was standing still for her and Naruto as their kiss continued on forever, welding together an instant when the two of them were one incandescent star. Yet as with all good things, the kiss came to an end, and as both Temari and Naruto slowly and reluctantly parted from each other. After a swallow to unfreeze his tongue, Naruto gazed into Temari's teal eyes and said in an awestruck voice, wow. Nothing else was said for a minute as the pair held hands and lost themselves in the other's eyes. In a rather serious tone, a man's voice called out, bringing the moment to an end with a rather straightforward, yo. If enjoyed the story, Subscribe and press the bell icon for the next part update. Thanks for watching.